There are relationships that never truly end. They only change shape. The one between you and your mother is not just a memory or a presence, it's an echo, carried in the way you love, the way you fear, and even the way you heal. Her voice, whether gentle or distant, often lingers quietly beneath your own. Perhaps you've noticed traces of her in your gestures, in the words you use, or in the comfort you offer others. Sometimes it's warm, sometimes it's ache. The relationship with a mother holds both, the tenderness of being nurtured and the silence of things left unsaid. Tonight, we turn inward, not to judge or rewrite the past, but to understand how her influence continues to live through you. Her love, her absence, her lessons, and even her wounds, they've all shaped the story you tell yourself about care, safety, and belonging. Every child grows with Anna's story, and that story begins with a mother. Whether she was near or far, loving or complicated, present or unpredictable, her way of being became your first language of love. Even now, that early language still echoes in your adult relationships. Some of us learned love through warmth and patience, others through silence, comparison, or the need to earn it. Each moment with her, spoken or unspoken, formed a quiet understanding of what connection means. You may not consciously remember every word, but your body does. There's a rhythm in the way she held you, a tone in the way she called your name. That rhythm became your emotional heartbeat, one that still guides how you respond to care, conflict, and affection. And as you listen tonight, you may find her voice softly beneath your own. Maybe it's still asking for approval. Maybe it's offering comfort. Maybe it's teaching you, even now, how to forgive. So take a breath, let your shoulders loosen, and prepare to meet the echoes that live within you, the ones shaped by her love, her story, and the unspoken bond that has followed you ever since. Feel free to pause between the questions. Give yourself a moment to feel the answer, whatever rises in you. And when you're ready, we'll dive into a small, soft discussion together around what your heart whispered back. Think about your earliest memory of your mother, not just what happened, but how it felt. Does it carry warmth, distance, confusion, or comfort? What emotion rises when you return to that memory? And how does it still live within you today? Sometimes we inherit her emotions without realizing it. Her anxieties, her hopes, her way of protecting herself. Which of her emotional patterns do you notice repeating in your own life? And how do they shape the way you respond to love or pain? Her tone, her silence, her gaze, all of them taught you something about safety. When you think about comfort, whose voice do you hear first? Yours or hers? What does that say about where your sense of safety began? Some people grow up feeling they had to earn their mother's affection. Others received it freely. How did your mother teach you to be loved? Through achievement, obedience, or simple presence? And how does that lesson still affect how you seek love today? There are moments when you find yourself reacting in ways that feel familiar, almost inherited. When you feel angry, patient, or protective, do you recognize her in you? What parts of your behavior feel like echoes of her own? Sometimes we unconsciously try to heal what our mothers never could. What pain or limitation of hers have you tried to mend through your own life choices? And how has that shaped your path? Love from a mother can be both shelter and shadow. When you think about her love, do you feel peace or heaviness? What parts of it have you carried with gratitude, and what parts still feel too heavy to hold? There may be unspoken expectations to be strong, kind, quiet, perfect. Which of those did she pass to you, and how have they shaped the way you see yourself now? Sometimes the lessons were never spoken, only shown through her struggles. What did watching her teach you about resilience, and what did it teach you about silence? Every mother has her own story. The girl she once was, the dreams she left behind. How well do you know her story? And how much of it lives quietly within your own? When you feel guilt or responsibility that doesn't belong to you, does it trace back to her? What parts of her pain have you mistaken as your own burden to carry? There's tenderness in seeing her humanity, realizing she too was learning how to love. Can you forgive her for the things she couldn't give? And forgive yourself for still wanting them? The way she looked at you may have shaped the way you see yourself. What did her eyes teach you about your worth? And how do you look at yourself now? Sometimes we resist becoming like her, yet find her in our laughter, our fears, our care. What qualities of hers do you now understand differently with time and compassion? Consider how you express care toward others, the gestures, the tone, the patience. In what ways does your love mirror hers, even when you thought it wouldn't? There are moments when you wish she could understand you now as the person you've become. If you could speak to her from this version of yourself, what would you want her to know about you? Healing often begins with seeing both her strength and her wounds without judgment. What truth about your relationship with her are you ready to accept, even if it's complex? If your mother were to see the adult you've become, what part of you do you think would make her proud, and what part might she finally understand? Every mother leaves echoes in the way we hold ourselves, love others, and face the world. Which of her echoes would you like to carry forward, and which are you ready to release? And finally, if you could meet her, not as mother and child, but as two souls who both tried their best, what would that moment feel like? And what peace might it bring? Every person carries the echo of their mother in ways both seen and unseen. It is not only in your gestures or tone of voice, though those too are pieces of her, but in the quiet ways you love, the fears you hold, the tenderness you offer, and the boundaries you struggle to keep. Even when you believe you've grown far from her influence, her presence still lingers in your emotional DNA, in the rhythm of your care, and in the way you reach or retreat from love. We often forget that the mother we carry within us is not only who she was, but also who we perceived her to be. And those perceptions become stories that live quietly beneath our skin. To understand your relationship with your mother is to open a door to the earliest form of love you ever knew. The first connection, the first separation, the first understanding of safety and warmth. Whether she was nurturing or distant, expressive or silent, her way of being with you shaped the blueprint through which you learned how to relate to others. If love came easily, you may now trust affection. If it came with uncertainty, you might find yourself over-explaining, seeking reassurance, or fearing rejection. Every adult attachment is, in some small way, a continuation of that first bond, not a copy, but an echo, repeating until you learn to hear it with new ears. Sometimes the echo feels warm and grounding, the comfort of a familiar scent, the softness of a voice that once hummed you to sleep. But for many, that echo carries ache. Maybe your mother was loving but overwhelmed, always doing but rarely present. Maybe she loved through control or silence or sacrifice. Maybe she gave everything she had but never gave herself permission to rest. These experiences shape your understanding of love's cost. If she hid her pain, you might have learned that strength means silence. If she carried others' burdens, you might now confuse love with self-abandonment. The patterns you repeat are often the emotional languages you inherited, unspoken but powerful. There's also the part of you that wanted to save her, to make her smile when she was tired, to be easy when she was struggling, to avoid adding to her stress. This unspoken loyalty becomes a quiet shadow that follows you into adulthood. You may find yourself drawn to caretaking, soothing others, or silencing your own needs, all because you learned early that peace in the house depended on your calm. It is tender and tragic, this inheritance of emotional responsibility. Healing it doesn't mean blaming your mother. It means freeing yourself from the belief that love equals emotional labor. And yet, amid the complexities, there is beauty. Even if your mother loved imperfectly, even if she never said the words you longed to hear, she may have offered you strength in other forms, resilience, creativity, faith, humor, endurance. Many of her ways of surviving became your ways of thriving. Sometimes her silence made you listen deeply. Sometimes her struggles became your motivation to grow beyond the limits she faced. Love, even when flawed, leaves traces of wisdom. You might not have received everything you needed, but you received something. And within that something lies the seed of self-understanding. Healing your relationship with your mother, whether she is alive, distant, or gone, is not about rewriting history. It is about rewriting your internal dialogue with her presence inside you. You might start by asking, what part of my mother lives in me? It could be the way you soften when someone cries, the way you avoid confrontation, the way you chase approval, or even the way you laugh at the world's absurdities. Once you see her within you, You can decide what to keep, what to honor, and what to gently release. Healing is not rejection. It is choosing which echoes to carry forward. Some find healing through conversation, others through silence. Some write letters they never send, speaking the truth they never could. Others grieve what will never be, the mother who could not stay, the one who never understood, the one whose love came wrapped in pain. Grief is not only for loss, it is also for the versions of love that never unfolded as we hoped. Allow yourself to mourn what never was. It makes space for compassion to enter. Because when you stop resisting the ache, you can finally hear the tenderness underneath it, the part of her that did love you, even if she didn't know how to show it. And maybe, in the quiet moments of reflection, you realize that she too was someone's daughter, carrying echoes of her own mother's patterns, wounds, and silences. This realization doesn't erase the pain, but it humanizes it. It softens the sharpness of resentment and invites empathy, not as justification, but as understanding. You can acknowledge her flaws without glorifying them. You can hold gratitude for what she gave and grief for what she couldn't. Both can exist together. Healing doesn't demand perfection, it asks for wholeness. There's also the child within you, still waiting for something she might never give. This inner child may long to be seen, held, or told, "You were never too much." When you meet that part of yourself with compassion, you stop expecting your mother to complete what only you can now give. That is the sacred turning point, when love shifts from waiting to self-giving. You begin to mother yourself. You speak gently to your fears, you celebrate your own efforts, and you remind yourself that the love you needed can still be created, even if not by her. As you grow into this awareness, you may begin to redefine love altogether. No longer a repetition of inherited pain, it becomes a conscious choice. One where care and boundaries coexist, where nurturing doesn't require depletion, where forgiveness is not forgetfulness, but release. You start to love in ways that don't erase you. You begin to build relationships that feel safe enough to breathe in. You may even find yourself offering your mother a silent forgiveness, not for her sake, but for your own freedom. Because when you forgive her, you are not saying what happened was okay. You are saying, I am ready to stop carrying what isn't mine. You are saying, I will not let this pain define the way I love. And slowly, you begin to feel space in your chest again. You begin to hear your own voice rising, softer, clearer, your own. That is the echo you create now. Your mother within you, transformed by awareness, compassion, and peace. Healing your relationship with your mother is not a single conversation. It is a lifelong unfolding. Some days it feels like gratitude, other days like grief. But both are parts of the same song. It plays softly beneath your life, and when you learn to listen, you'll realize that even the most painful notes can become music. Because love, even in its most complex form, has always been your greatest teacher. As you sit here, perhaps in the hush of night, let your breath slow. The echoes within you are not just reminders of pain. They are invitations to understand where love first began. Every trace of your mother, both the gentle and the heavy, shaped the person you've become. You are not simply her reflection, you are her continuation. Her story evolving into yours. Where she held silence, you can speak. Where she endured, you can heal. You are not bound by what she could not give. You are free to give yourself everything she couldn't. Tonight, may you find peace with the echoes, not by erasing them, but by listening to what they've been trying to teach you all along. The echo of your mother within you is not just memory, it is transformation. It is love becoming conscious. So we don't chase answers, we rest with the questions, because even the quietest ones deserve to be heard. This is always the night therapy. Good night.